It is a show that asks a lot of compelling questions, but also surprisingly, which, in the pilot we answer quite a few. So it's not just, okay, we're going to throw up a lot of things and you'll wonder if we know where we're going.
You know where you're going.
I'd like to think so. I certainly trust Blake.
So why USA? Why is that a good fit for the show?
Well, I mean, it's much easier telling people why now because of Mr. Robot. It was when the pilot was given a green light, and people didn't know that USA was going to be, the home of a show as compelling, interesting, and timely as Mr. Robot. But they knew where they wanted to go as a network, and Falling Water fit within that framework, and then essentially was ours to screw up. I mean, if we got the pilot right, there was a good shot that they would feel that the audience that enjoyed Mr. Robot would find this equally compelling program. Very different, but equally compelling. That's what we hope.
I know the answer is going to be good writing, but what I'm curious in general. What draws you? What makes it feel like a right fit for you? The good writing, and in particular this show, what it was about that appealed to you. Both those things.
Well, I was lucky, as you may have heard from Blake, because there was already a spec script that he'd written with Henry Bermel. So I mean that's really a producer's dream. It's not someone comes in and pitches you something, and in half an hour they can make it sound fantastic, and then you realize it's missing a lot of things when you read it. I was able to read it and say, you know what, this is a journey I want to go on, and at the end of the day, I'm too old. I've done too many things, that it's got to be the right people, someone like Blake, who knows where the series is going and can tell me that, who has the same instincts that I do as to, how to bring it to life. And then when we attracted a talent like Juan Carlos Fresnadillo, who did Intacto and 28 Weeks Later, to direct the pilot, and he was on the same page, then you go, okay, not only can this be a great pilot, but this can live on as a series.
Right.
How does this compare to the other shows that you're attached to as a producer?
It's very different. I mean, obviously with Walking Dead, there was a comic book with a huge existing fan base. Obviously the concern there that when we brought Walking Dead to Comic-Con the first time was the fear in those fans that we'd screw it up, that we'd get it right, that we would get it wrong, that we wouldn't appreciate the canon and bring it to life. Especially when we announced that Andrew Lincoln was playing Rick Grimes. It's like the guy, the kind of goofy guy from Love Always. I mean, that struck fear. But when we showed the promo, it was like, okay, great. We think we can trust the series. But with something original, so the good news, the bad news is there is no awareness, so we have to build the awareness so you don't have something pre-existing to market. But you also have the ability to have no preconceived notions among viewers as to what it's going to look like and who's going to be in it and where it's going to go.
No, I just said awesome.
Oh, okay. If is there a line you have to cross between making a show that obviously has got so many surreal qualities to it and not pushing it too much and making it too surreal for the mainstream audience that might, like, it gets too weird that the mainstream audience goes, well, I don't know what the hell's going on, and turn off the TV?
Well, I think once again it's fantastic that USA has Mr. Robot, a show that is dealing with some pretty compelling themes and doesn't give you answers that are all sewn up at the end of every episode. There's some serialized shows that it's almost like each episode is very complete, even though they're telling a serialized story. And so the fact that Mr. Robot continues, to continue the various threads, I think is a great education for our show. But we also don't keep the mysteries. We know by the end of the pilot that we have the female lead, Tess, played by Lizzie Brocheret, is someone who's convinced she had a baby. that the baby was taken from her. But there's no evidence that she's ever had a child. But her life, she won't be complete without the absolute proof one way or another, and she really believes that child exists. So we're not going to keep that going, for 10 episodes and only at the end let you know whether the child may or may not be real. And we've got Burton, played by David Ajala, who is madly in love, and the loss that he feels is the love of his life, and wondering whether she is really flesh and blood and exists, or is she just part of his own dream world. And then the character of Taka, played by William Lee, who's lost his mother not because she died, but because she's been essentially comatose for years, and he wants that connection. She's there. He can see her, but he can't connect with her. And it really is about loss of connection and loss in our world, which I think we're all very disconnected. We connect more with our devices than we do with other people, and I think that's why it's so interesting that it explores a dream world in which we are all dreaming separate tiles of a larger dream, and that maybe we can connect to each other if those tiles can all come together. And so there's fear of connection, but there's hope in the series as well.
So what's the social?
Falling water.
Falling water is to us, it represents the barrier between the dreaming world and the waking world, and it's a permeable barrier. You can pass back and forth, and there's a lot of watery imagery in the series.
I was going to ask, what's the social construct when these dreams collide and all these characters come together?
That's the thing, is that part of what we postulate is it possible to enter someone else's dreams? Is it possible that what happens in the dream world is as real to us as what happens in the waking world? And can those barriers fall away? So that's part of the construct of
Will
the
the story
series.
go into what happens when these dreams coincide and when the characters get together and talk?
Yes, it will.
Very interesting.
Do you like the 10-episode model? I mean, you've done it obviously on television. It's a lot better to do a shorter run than trying to do like the networks do 22 episodes of the show.
Well, I mean, we got the series order in June. In January. And we started shooting, I think we started shooting in June. And because it's complex and visually compelling, you need time to build all that. And you want to make sure, because there are 3 central characters and it's about relationships, that you can thread those all through, that you know where it's going. When you have like 15 and 16 episodes on, shows like The Walking Dead and Fear the Walking Dead, the pitch out isn't for the whole season. The pitch out is for the first 7 or 8 episodes. And then there's a second pitch out for the last 8. Because you can just imagine, how complex that is. When you consider that each outline is 20 pages. That's a lot of reading. So it's a lot of writing, it's a lot of thinking. But with 10 episodes, it's manageable. The writers can make sure that we achieve everything and don't run out of story or
They'll
don't run
fill
out
it
of character.
basically
Yeah.
throughout the season, like a
Yeah.
lot of shows have.
Do characters have flaws that they have to overcome?
Yeah, I think what's really interesting about, certainly, it's very true of Mr. Robot, is that our flaws are what make us human, and often we're the last people to know exactly what our flaws are, and sometimes actually it's through our dreams that we can explore them, or that they become even more evident to us. And perhaps if we can break through the fears that we have of finding out the truth about ourselves, we can heal ourselves. And that doesn't mean that we're going to be perfect, but I think acceptance. I think everyone is trying to achieve some sort of acceptance. And once they've accepted themselves, it's a lot easier for them to accept other people. And once again, I think that's something that's there's all too little of in the world today.
You made a statement earlier that you've been doing this for so long that you want to work with people who have sort of a similar thing. Do you find that as you're getting older? I feel that way as a journalist. As you're getting older, it's like, do I want to spend the time writing about this, or do I want to spend time writing about that? So do you find yourself a lot of times wrestling with?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't want to repeat myself, except if I realize that I've done something, I didn't quite do it right the first time. Maybe there's a way to reinvent it. But I want to do things that to me are my way of either exercising demons, exploring new worlds. I was telling the other table that I've used dreams myself. Going back to Terminator, when we were in pre-production on Terminator and then going into production, I would, in my dreams, encounter problems that were inspired by what we were going to shoot the next day. And in my dreams, I would have like 2 or 3 different ways to solve them, and I swear to God, at least once a week, if not more, one of those situations would happen, and I'd already addressed it in my dream, and it was incredibly helpful. It was, however, like I was never escaping. I was never escaping from my work, because even in my dreams were becoming my work. And then I went to it. Did Blake tell you that both he and the late Henry Vermels, they have parents who are Jungian dream psychologists. So he's very well versed in the Jungian dream universe. I went to a Jungian dream therapist, and I don't even think Blake knows this. That I went to a Jungian.
Yes.
And but he was one of those people who he wouldn't tell his clients who he was seeing, but he would say, "So, do you have the dream of the week this week?" So I felt this pressure to have the most compelling, the most interesting, the most complicated, the weirdest, and Jungian iconography in my dreams. And I realized it was really unhealthy. It was very, very, because I'm a competitive person. I would be despondent if I didn't have Dream of the Week.
Well,
you could hire a writer.
I have boring dreams. Everybody thinks I have really, really weird dreams, and I just have really boring ones. Everybody comes up and says, "You must have the weirdest dreams." I'm like, no, I get it out in the day.
That's his therapy, is writing the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.